Hello, everyone. My name is Rafal, and I would like to welcome everyone to my Headshot Photography podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I've been looking for this podcast for quite some time. Stephanie Girard from LA. She's amazing, amazing headshot photographer, one of the leading ones. Her work is absolutely stunning. I've been checking your work constantly, just so you know. I'm a little bit addicted to it.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much for joining. We've talked a little
Oh,
bit previously that we talked before, and was almost 7 years ago,
I
which I
can't believe it.
actually just I was just shocked that we've talked so many years ago, and I guessing that a lot of things changed since that. So I want to dive into your world. How headshot photography evolved over the last decade, because that seems like we talk about it a long time ago. So there's a lot of different things back then. Now is completely different world. Headshot photography is unique, is different, and it seems like has own path nowadays. So thank you again, and I'm really looking forward to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. So we're not gonna go back to your story about hatchet photography, because you've been in this industry for many years. Maybe briefly tell me, how did you get into this genre of photography? Because
Sure.
headshots evolve over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and
Mhm.
somehow has everyone has kind of own path getting into this. So what was
Yeah.
your specific path to get into this
Sure.
industry?
I was living in New York at the time that I started playing with cameras. And this was a time before any of the social medias, the Instagrams, any of that. It was right when we were kind of switching from film to digital. And
Mhm.
it was a big shift in the photography industry and even entertainment, the acting industry. So that's kind of when I got in. And New York was my experimental phase. You
Mhm.
know, I was there for about 7 years and playing with cameras until I moved to Los Angeles. And then I really decided I wanted to take it seriously.
Mhm.
And then I just continued to shoot. My style evolved as I got here, and LA responded to my style of shooting very quickly. I was super fortunate. But just grabbing anybody I could in front of my camera and building my LA portfolio, which of course was slightly different than my New York one.
Mhm.
And then my career just built from there. I do consider myself really fortunate, although I work very hard for it. I was incredibly fortunate to
Yeah.
evolve into where I am now.
So did you get like right away, did you got into headshots, or did you do anything prior, like any other type of photography, and then slowly start kind of getting into the headshots, like how the process? Because I know a
Yeah.
lot of, like, for example, myself, I started with weddings and I shoot
Mm.
for decades,
Wow.
and then slowly getting into headshots. So what was your path? Like, did you like, okay, I want to do headshots, that's what I want to do, and you just like went directly towards that?
Yeah, I was kind of in and around that industry
Mhm.
with actors and models, and it was always photographing humans. I never did weddings. I have so much respect for wedding photographers. It
Yeah.
is a whole different beast.
Yes.
I definitely started with models and actors. I did kind
Mhm.
of go back and forth with the fashion element in New York.
Mhm.
And then even when I got to Los Angeles, I was shooting a lot for a big modeling agency here.
Mhm.
And it was kind of a unique thing where they would come to me to build their modeling portfolios, and we would do editorials and stuff for their books. But most of them, because we're in Los Angeles, they also wanted to be actors. So
Mhm.
when we would finish with that, we would then shoot an actor headshot for them.
Mhm.
So I kind of was doing both at the same time. And at one point realized I really loved portrait and headshots.
Mhm.
I love this industry so much.
Mhm.
And it's just a little different than fashion in the sense that you really get to connect with another human,
Mhm.
and kind of your job and task is to bring out that person that you're getting to know and showcase them for the world to see. And it's a pretty cool thing. It's a very unique thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because everyone who I talk to, like everyone who's a headshot photographer, has like the same kind of like a feeling about this genre of photography, that you have to connect with people on this completely different level. And I've been hearing this over and over and over again. And I also want to say that that was one of my kind of addiction to it, because you just like weddings, you just go, you shoot, you leave, like you don't even kind of know what's happening. Sometimes you just like, capturing what is happening on the day, but there
Yeah.
is not as much that you have to connect with these people on like completely different level.
Sure.
While in headshots, like you have to get this connection right away. And I think what is fascinating about it, every session is different because you have to connect with different person, right? And you have to like navigate through all sorts of different emotions, and try to figure out this
Hmm.
person. And it's then you have to creating this amazing connection. So I think that's why this is amazing in a genre of photography, because kind of like
I
makes you
agree.
more human, I would say. And then you
I
have to,
completely agree. Yeah.
yeah, empathy, you have to understand, you have to kind of like literally get into their world to kind of
Yeah.
create this little
Yeah.
bit of connection. So tell me
I'm sure
how
you
you,
see that
yeah,
too.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, oh
No,
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure you see that too. And people open up.
Yes,
And they're quite vulnerable, and we're kind of their safe space to work through whatever's going on in their life, whatever's going on in their career. They're not always dropping that at the door when they walk in the studio. And yeah, it's a gift, right? To be able
absolutely.
to create that environment for people.
Absolutely. And I think I want to add one more thing, because we're living in this world where it's completely, well, getting is really disconnected, right? Because we communicate through social media and, I don't know, emails, messengers, you name it, DMs.
Hmm.
And I think what it's missing in our, like, I don't know, life right now for so many people, that having that connection with other people, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit more how your style of headshots and portraits evolve over the years, because I know for
Mm.
all of us it's a process. It's
Yeah.
something that we develop over the time. And I think when you, with your, especially your long term, um like you've been in this industry for so long that you can really see how this style kind of evolve over the years. So what was
Yeah.
the biggest shift, where you just like, okay, I want to go that direction? So I'm going to pop up
Yeah.
your, I'm actually Instagram right now, so let's talk about it. Tell me about
Ah,
the journey a little bit, and then we're going to
yeah.
also see some of your recent work.
Sure. Yeah, I think total I've been in LA roughly 17 years. So to see how headshots have evolved over that time is wild. I think typically here in LA, being kind of the entertainment capital of the world, we tend to set the trends a bit with
Mhm.
headshots, which is incredible. But also, it can be a little feeling of pressure as well. So I do think, starting years ago here, everyone was kind of using natural light, right? Whatever beautiful light was coming in through your window, your garage. And I certainly started that way. I built my career on a big, huge window in my loft and an IKEA
Mhm.
curtain.
Okay.
and, and it really, genuinely, and just looked for and created beautiful light.
Mhm.
So from there it evolved. And then as I think I had a few different kind of shifts um, with the style, at least, of the headshot. I was hired for a job years ago that was out of state, and it was a bunch of actors that were about to graduate from a program that was kind of in the middle of the country, dead of winter, sun, setting at 4 o'clock, and they were like, "Yeah, we want your gorgeous aesthetic," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, cool, cool," and kind of had to figure that out, and that really kind of sparked the idea of shooting with strobes.
Mhm.
And that's when I started that shift. So that was like a big number one shift for me.
Mhm.
And then once I did that, of course, that opened up the whole world of like, wow, this is so much easier, and I can shoot any time of day, and I can, see the accuracy of this, the consistency of this. And that was probably shift number one. And then as it evolved, we all kind of did that blurred out look with the backlight, and I remember even people being like, wait, what? You're going to put the light in the shot? Like, you're going to show that? And that was like such a risk at the time. And then that kind of evolved, right? And I think for me, anytime, I can sense when I'm wanting to switch up the style or just tweak or add to it or elevate it just a little. I'm constantly trying to outdo myself, of course. I think a big shift for me was seeing a lot of canvas in celebrity photographs and portraits. I really wanted to play around with that and see what that was like, because I've always kind of had the thought that just because the actor in front of me doesn't have extensive credits yet or isn't a household name, why wouldn't they be kind of photographed or treated the same as someone who's working on TV? And so I always kind of wanted to incorporate and have that element of like, I know that person, I've seen that person in something, like that kind of like movie star quality, right? And so for me, it's always been doing the style that people are coming to me for, and then I'm always giving them a little extra something, and I'm always sneaking kind of new things in there and seeing what people respond to. And I think, the canvas was the other big shift for me. I don't typically do a lot of that blurred out background anymore. I'm also like, if I look at my work from like 7, 8, 9 years ago and it looks the same, then I'm doing something wrong and I've got to step it up. So I think making that shift for me was fulfilling me artistically as well. And really the response from the agents, casting directors, managers, everybody was really good. But it was a risk because no one was really doing it a ton. So that's kind of the world I live in now, is that, portrait headshot with canvas and playing with the tones a little bit. We're definitely seeing now the kind of current trend that we're doing is a little bit more body in some of the shots, have them seated on a stool in some of the shots. Even kind of playing with their hair, looking off camera, laughing, because the use of these headshots is different than it was when we were shooting them for 8x10 prints, right? The actors used to print them out, hand them to the casting director. Certainly in a post-COVID world, that has dramatically changed, because at least in Los Angeles, all these actors are submitting digitally with, Actors Access and these tiny thumbnails, as you know. So we had to look at what we call like the thumbnail factor. So not how does this look in an 8x10, but this tiny little submission, that looks like what we look at on our thumbnails on our Capture One or our Lightroom or whatever we're shooting with.
You want to back on this?
That's how the casting is viewing it. So that changed a lot for me, and so having some of these kind of out of the box shots now, the actors are using it on their social media, their Instagrams, their TikToks, their whatever form they're using, plus their IMDb, which is where people are going to see what credits they legitimately have. So that part's really changed, and it's kind of fun. We call them PR shots, where it used to be just the actors that were on TV were doing these for their reps, and it would appear in Variety or Deadline. And now almost everybody wants them. And the agents have use for them for different things too, to pitch the actor or a promo or anything like that. So it's not just an 8x10 submission for a particular role anymore. It's really expanded, which allows us to play more, which is an amazing thing.
So I have a question on that. So how you balance between your creativity, because I can really see that you're trying to like implement your style, like your look, your creativeness for your images, and how that apply for what the agents or what the industry wants, right? Because I know like if the actor or actress coming into you, they also want to show those images to potential jobs, right? And then you have to also make sure that those images, they're going to fit what is out there, what is trendy, and people who's going to be looking at them is like, okay, this is what I want to look at. So this is, I think, like a delicate balance between your creativity and what the market needs. So how you balance that and like how you work with that.
Yeah, it is a balance daily, shoot by shoot, because headshots, as you know, are not one size fits all. It's not for me just like, okay, it's my same setup, insert actor every day. Everyone is so uniquely different from one another, and their needs are so different from one another. and their experience level. I mean, the list goes on and on. It is a balance. For me, at the end of the day, if they're coming in for headshots, the number one priority is to give them headshots. It's to give them the rib cage to the slight top of the head being cropped off, eyes being the focus, personality coming through. That is the bulk of their shoot. Okay. Unless they're strictly coming to me for a full PR session or something like that. But that has to be the majority of the shoot because that is what they're coming for. That is what their agents use. The other stuff, you know, that gets in there because now we're at the point the actor loves it, the agent loves it. I mean, there is multiple uses for the kind of out of the box stuff. And it is case by case. So for me, I try and overwhelm them with beautiful choices so that they really have shots for every kind of avenue they're using these for, you know? So the last thing you want is someone to have to come in, okay, now I'm coming in for my headshots. Now I'm coming in for ones that show a little bit more. Now I'm coming in for ones for commercials. Like, hopefully they get to come in and do all the things in their session. And like I said, I mean, every actor's needs are different. So an actor that's maybe you've seen on TV often, they're going to have stuff that's maybe a little outside of that traditional headshot box because they have the freedom and liberty to do that. And it just really depends on the person.
So I want to talk a little bit about choosing the final shots. And the reason I'm asking, because whenever I talk to, you know, different headshot photographers, they have different approach to this. You know, some of them allowing completely, the client is just picking whatever they like. They don't even like, they try to help them, but the final word is, you know, they saying, okay, this is the shot, what I want. But there are other ones who like really getting involved into, you know, helping the client to choosing the images which are, you know, best from the session, the images which really speaks the volume, the images which really sends the message. How this process looks, like when you're working with your clients, are you kind of really getting really heavily into debating with them, okay, this is the best shots, or this is the image which is going to work best for you? Because we have way more experience, right? Because we've seen hundreds of thousands of those shots, and then you can really get this sense, okay, this is going to work well for you. But the clients, you know, they always look at things differently because they're picking on some little details. Oh, you know, whatever. We know
as we all do.
Exactly. And so they see those images differently. So how this process looks like on your end?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know, everyone's process is quite different with that. You know, for me, yes, I guess I consider myself an expert in that field, but I'm not an agent and I'm not a casting director. And I certainly do love to pick the brains of people in those positions that I know and love and respect. I think when it comes to someone who does have that team of people, I do like to kind of hand over and trust that they know what they're doing and talking about. It, just as we discussed before, every actor is different. So if it's a younger actor who maybe doesn't have an agent yet or doesn't have the experience yet, they might need a little guidance because they're probably just going to pick the prettiest photo of themselves, which isn't always the one that gets them in the door.
Yes.
Right. So for every client that I shoot, along with their gallery is a curated folder that says Steph's Picks. So while I'm shooting them in Capture One, I am marking ones literally as I'm going, like, oh, that one was cute. And I'm putting a little 5 stars on it. And then what happens is at the end, I'm scrolling through and making sure, you know, okay, those are the ones I actually picked. They get uploaded for the client with their gallery and they get a little opinion, right? Of mine. That's like, hey, here are some, and I always give the disclaimer, like, this is not me going through your entire shoot with a fine tooth comb. This is while we were shooting, you know, this shot really jumped out at me. So it's going into this folder of ones that I think are awesome and captured who you are. They can choose that or not. At the end of the day, once they leave my studio, they can pick whatever they want because I'm not someone who's going to release photos that I wouldn't want them to use.
Yes.
You know, there was a huge kind of turning point with me where I kept hearing about like, oh yeah, this photographer made me like do all this retouching, or this photographer, I ended up spending an extra $300 because they said that, these photos have to be retouched. For me, when Instagram came about and people could just download their shots and put them right up on the internet without a stitch of retouching, I kind of reflected and went, okay, well then I need to really step up my game and make sure that I am comfortable with the quality of work I'm producing without a stitch of retouching on it, should someone want to post it or use it as is. And I really held myself accountable for that. I'm not a photographer who relies heavily on retouching. I think it is for something that is a blemish that makeup wouldn't cover, or a piece of hair that stuck out that maybe, they turned and it moved, or we put wind on them and it didn't work out. Something uncontrollable environment stuff, right? And that still is up to them. It's like, yes, you can see the blemish, but if you're comfortable with it, use it, because we're human. I want the actors in my photos to feel like there's life, that they're living, breathing things, right? And it's not this static, like AI, too perfect looking thing. So I think that's where I kind of let go of control a little bit as to which ones they're picking, because these are their photos at the end of the day, and how they feel about them is really important to me,
So on that, I have actually one more question based on my experience.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be a good question to kind of like continue this conversation. Did you notice that a lot of our clients, they kind of needed time to digest those photos? Because I've noticed sometimes at the beginning, like, I'm not saying they hesitant, they love them, whatever, but with the time, like, I don't know, months, sometimes even years, whatever, they really have this like strong attachment to those shots. Because like I have clients and I ask them, like, we've done this photo shoots, I don't know, 3 years ago. It's time to like, get you new shots. And he's like, no, I really love these images and I want to just keep them forever. It's like they grow into those shots and they just kind of hang on to them. They don't want to kind of change anything. But like, and the point what I'm trying to make, I've noticed on so many sessions that, people sometimes, like, because they hesitant, because, they see themselves, whatever, and they kind of reserve about those images. I know with actors, a little bit probably different story, but like, in the corporate world, I found it's like, okay, it's me, I'm getting older. But then, like after they kind of look at those shots, they get this affirmation from other people. Yeah, you look great. They have the kind of, they creating the connections or some kind of feelings towards own images. So did you notice that with your clients?
You mean as far as they're happy with a shot, so they wait longer in between sessions to update them?
That's the one thing. But the other thing, how they kind of create this bond with those images. That's what I'm trying to kind of like.
Well, if they first of all, if they're creating a bond with their images, that's a wonderful compliment for you, because it means they love them, right?
Yes,
exactly. And that's an awesome thing, even though you're like, right, but I want your return business.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I do see the business or corporate professional people for sure wait longer between sessions. I think when they come to me and they're like, this is the one I've been using. And I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. Like that is a long time ago. But also I think a lot of them drag their feet a little bit, because it wasn't a thing that business people needed photos so much as they do nowadays. Now everybody needs a headshot, right? Like dentist, doctor, lawyer. I mean, we do shoots over at Netflix for the whole executive team. I mean, everybody needs them. So I do think, they probably grow a personal attachment to it. It's this time in their life that they're successful. They love the photo. They love how they feel in the photo. I mean, I don't think any of us love seeing ourselves aging in photos, right? But that's life, and it's a privilege, and it's an amazing thing. But we are a vain society. So maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure, but I guess I would see that as a bit of a compliment. If people are really attached and they don't want to update their shots. For actors, it's different, because they really have to be current. They really have to look like their shots.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's switch the gears a little bit. And I want to talk about the amazing connection you're creating with your clients, because those images, they speak for themselves. You can really see that the people who are photographed by you, they're really enjoying it. And there is this amazing bond you're creating between you and your subject. Tell me a little bit about this process, because I know it's not easy. I know it's like
Yeah.
something extremely important in headshot photography. And if you don't get that, if you focus on lighting and camera, you're never going to get this bond. And I know it's like a stages in our industry, like when you're becoming professional headshot photographer, you're starting with lighting, then you just like, okay, now I'm going to make this more creative. But I think the top of this mountain is to creating this amazing bond with the subject, that you can really capture their personalities. So I want to talk about it with you, because you master that to the point that I don't think people can even copy you, or kind of
Oh,
like it's really special. Like you can, like every image has this kind of like bundle of emotions, which is like spewing from the image, and you can really not only like see it but feel it. So I want to talk about it, like what's the process, how you approach this, how you connect with these people, how you like pretty much just going through this whole session, creating this one of a kind bond, and capturing those people's personalities.
well, wow. Thank you. That's incredible compliments. And that's the highest compliment you can pay me, because that's the most important thing to me in my work. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think lighting has to be there. It has to be beautiful. All the other elements kind of that you discussed, they are important and they're necessary, right? And, maybe there are photographers that kind of nerd out over that stuff more so than other elements. For me, especially like when I'm teaching photographers, connection is the number one element in what we do, right? I think you have to love people and you have to love talking to people, because that's primarily like the bulk of your work is these humans that come in and get in front of your camera.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. I thoroughly enjoy what I do every day, and I feel incredibly fortunate. And um, I think for me in my studio, it's just always creating this kind of safe, fun environment where people can come in, turn off, whatever's going on in their life, and just have fun, and enjoy the process of being photographed. I think it's reassuring to people when you let them know that, like, the nerves they're feeling, everyone feels that, me
Mhm.
included. Most people that come in are like, well, I know this is kind of crazy, but I don't love taking headshots. And I'm like, yeah, literally says everybody that walks in the door.
Exactly.
Because it's a very vulnerable thing. And especially for actors, they're in this to pretend to be other people and build these characters, right? And have hair and makeup and wardrobe and costumes and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh no, just be yourself. And they're like, oh, right, easy. So it's a different thing. It's people just expect that actors are like so easy to photograph, and they must be so good on camera. But majority of them are really, really nervous and really uncomfortable just sitting there being themselves. I think it's just I love to get to know people. I love
Mhm.
to chat during the shoot. We play music, we hang out. I'll open up things about myself when we're talking. It's such a shared experience. It's not like,
Mhm.
here, I'm the master and I have, my camera and you're there and you're the subject. And, it's not that. It's a
Mhm.
mutual connection, right?
Connection.
Because I have to open up in order for them to open up too. So
Mhm.
it's I will give major credit to my people that are in here, anyone from
Mhm.
my husband to my assistant to our hair and makeup artists. They can be the most talented makeup artists in the world, but they have to have the right personality,
Mhm.
because that is an energy that's in here as well. So I think when we're all here, we all adore working with each other. They feel that energy, we're psyched to start our day and be able to do what we do.
Mhm.
And it's just really important. It's reassuring people that they look amazing and that the shots are going to be beautiful, and that we're just there to like have fun and talk. And I happen to have a camera in my hand.
Mhm.
But I think it has to be genuine. It's not something you can just fake and expect that there's going to be a connection. You know, if you're someone that doesn't love talking to people, or if you don't love actors, I mean, it's probably not the right industry for you,
Right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there has to just be a massive amount of respect, and it's a delicate thing, and you have to treat it as such.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I want to pull out a little more secrets from you when it comes to this portion. Tell me, so how you deal with those challenging clients? Because like I know sometimes we have clients coming in, you start shooting, and you just like, okay, I'm in heaven right now because every shot you're getting, it's just like it's working, and you feel the connection, you feel the bond, and it's just going smoothly. So how do you deal when someone comes in and you can see, okay, there was a wall around it, they have a really hard time to open up, they terrified, they're scared, you can see through their body language, through their face expression, that they have this like little bit of wall which you have to break. So how you deal with those clients? Because, and the reason I want to ask you about it, because like I see there's not even one person on your images on your even like website or Instagram that there is no wall, like there's like a
Oh,
clear bond. So how you break this with the people? And the next question, what I want to ask you, like I want to have a little bit addition to it, is like it's easier for you to working with actors rather than like the corporate people, or it's more challenging, or doesn't really matter, everyone has this kind of the same path to kind of to get those shots?
yeah, I don't think one is easier than the next, because I do think,
Hmm.
a big portion of what I shoot is actors.
Hmm.
But I do shoot high-end executives here, network
Hmm.
executive, director, writers, that kind of thing. But even corporate, a
Hmm.
realtor, or that kind of thing. I don't think one is more challenging than the other. I think
Hmm.
actually one keeps me refreshed on the other. If I'm shooting actors a ton and then I get to go and do a different kind of headshot session that's not actors, it's like, oh, that kind of refreshes me a little bit. It's like, oh, yeah, this is we're switching it up today. And then it comes
Hmm.
back, and then, you appreciate your actors even more, and vice versa.
Hmm.
So I don't think there's a huge difference as far as that is concerned, because again, they're just human. They just have slightly
Yes.
different needs for the photos.
Hmm.
It's interesting what would classify as a difficult client, because someone who's
Hmm.
just nervous or has a wall up, I feel like that to me isn't my more challenging client. I think the wall is relatively easy to break down. Some people, I think oftentimes when people have a wall up, it's because they had an unpleasant past experience with a headshot
Hmm.
photographer. And, especially I get, maybe perhaps because I'm a woman, I get women that kind of open up and say, just like, I don't like this side of my face, and this photographer told me that this was X, Y, and Z. And
Hmm.
I think it's reassuring people, like, whatever experiences you've had before today, you just let them go. This is a new experience, and you know you're going to have a blast, and the photos are going to, you chose me because of the images. You're going to have images just like that. You're going to have your very own version of
Hmm.
that. So I think the walls are a little easier to break down, in my opinion. What can be difficult is like, someone that has a stronger personality that's maybe micromanaging things, or
Hmm.
that's they think they know better about something, or I think when you're on a professional level as artists, we all kind of stay in our lane a bit, right?
Hmm.
So I'm in the lane of photography and directing. Makeup artists are in their lane of makeup and hair, and like I will say, oh, can you move this piece? But I kind of trust what they're doing, and we all work together, and the actor's job is their job. Probably why I don't get so particular about what shots people pick, because I'm like, well, that's kind of their job, and then their agent and their manager, like, that's their lane. That's their lane to pick, and they know what's going to be best. So when there's a client who doesn't trust a position that I'm having them do because they're just convinced that it doesn't look good or something, that to me is more challenging. Someone who has some internal stuff going on that is stuff far beyond what I can solve in the studio. That is more challenging to me. And I think there is a point that we all reach with certain clients. We've seen it all at this point. the
Mhm.
good, the bad, the crazy. I mean, I feel like between you and I, we could probably write a real funny coffee table book about the crazy experiences
Yeah,
we've had
I
in
think
this line of work.
at least few.
Yeah, yeah.
For
We're
sure.
dealing with artists and eccentric
Yes.
people, and they're big personalities sometimes. Um, so I think it's more of maybe someone who, outside of headshots, maybe has issues they should probably work on just in life, or in the industry they've chosen to be in. Perhaps it isn't the industry they should be in if doing a headshot session is such a thing.
Tough. Yeah.
um yeah, it's tough, but that's rare. I really don't. I feel like 99% of the people that walk in my studio are incredible human beings, and we collaborate and have an awesome time.
Mhm.
I'm
Absolutely.
fortunate as far as that's concerned.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how the headset photography has changed over the last few years. And I want to talk a little bit about the post-COVID
Mm,
um, massive shift in the industry and the movie industry. We talked a little bit prior we started the podcast how some of those strikes affected literally every business, and
yeah.
also impacted our industry. So if we could just maybe jump into this, and like what is your point of view about some of those changes, and then I want to jump into what's the future of headshot
Mm,
photography, because
sure.
we see a lot of changes. I want to also touch a little bit later on AI, because I think that's going to be massive disruption in our industry. But let's start with discussing how the post-COVID change your business, change the industry, in your opinion. And do you think there is some positive which came out of this, or negative ones, or there's like nothing changed much? So what's your opinion on what's happening the last several years? Well, a few years, because the COVID was what,
Yeah.
2022, and it's over, right? So we have 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. At least from, the lockdowns on,
Hmm.
because that's really, I think, when people were, coming out of their homes, and life was starting again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at first, I think, once we got beyond the hesitation being around other humans,
Hmm.
once the masks came off, I think
Hmm.
people were just happy to be around other people, and happy to connect again. And I
Hmm.
think, at least for me, I just really deeply felt appreciative, for my work, and for me being able to do it every day, and being able to work with the people I do. Um, I think in general, after the initial scare and the really awful things that came along with COVID, I do
Hmm.
think um, there was some positivity for sure. I
Hmm.
think everyone was a little kinder. Everyone just slowed down for a minute, which we needed to do.
Yes.
I think it also made, at least me, I can't speak for anyone else, but all made us all realize like nothing is permanent, and
Hmm.
not job security. I mean, is it even a thing? We things are shifting, and they're constantly changing, and we need to change and adapt with them as well. I mean, just even the
Yeah.
COVID precautions we had to take in here, we had to adapt. I had like
Hmm.
a shower curtain. I'm not kidding, a shower curtain that was clear with a hole cut out
Wow.
of it, and my lens in the hole. And I was behind it, and the client was on the other side of it. And I mean, talk about, connecting with your
Wow.
subject.
Where
It's
you
a
can't
little
even
harder
see
to
them.
do when there's I know, when there's a giant plastic thing. We have
Mhm.
masks. I mean, for 2 years, people didn't even see my face.
Yeah.
And you had to go overboard to connect with them, and it was harder. We were exhausted. You just,
Oh yeah.
everyone had to work that much harder. I'm sure you remember.
Yeah.
But I think if we didn't learn from it, then, what's the point? I think we all had
Hmm.
to learn from it and appreciate what we do and what we get to do. And then, of course, yeah, we cut to, we've all recovered from that, and hooray for Hollywood, there's a big strike.
Yeah.
So I think, we here in Los Angeles got a little, you know rug swept from under us again.
Hmm.
But this time, there wasn't government assistance. There wasn't grants, loans, any of
yeah.
that going on. We, of course, are in an industry of actors, so we were supporting our actors 100%, fighting for the things they believe in. And the writers
Mhm.
who started the whole strike off, you know, we were in solidarity. We were supporting. We were doing headshot giveaways to people to
Oh,
try
wow.
and just help and give back. And we donated, I think, for a month straight, a portion of our shoots to the Actors Fund, to try and
Mhm.
help and support the industry that is always giving to us. You know, it's we were all
Mhm.
in it together. But
Yeah.
it hit everybody hard. We were fortunate enough to still have shoots and clients, but it wasn't the overwhelming amount we were used to. And so everybody here felt it. Restaurants, coffee shops, dry cleaners. I mean, you name it. The whole town was affected by
Wow.
this strike. And so it trickles down to other things.
Mhm.
And I think there was a lot of tension and frustration from people. And, you know, the industry was getting like a little divided. And it was difficult, I think, for people's morale.
Mhm.
But we got through it. And for us, it was like these things will be up for negotiation again. These contracts will be
Mhm.
up again. This could very well happen again. So making sure we were supporting everybody that was going through this. I mean, we as headshot photographers, we don't have a union that protects us. We
Yeah.
can't negotiate something that will protect us from AI. So we were like, you know, hopefully we're supporting you guys that, you know, you will remember that when it comes to
Mhm.
our industry, and that, you know, a person photographing you is always going to be different than an AI version of you or something else that they may develop in the future that we don't even know of, you know?
Mhm. So what's the future? So I think that's the right moment to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
AI. I think, everyone is, not only interested in this topic, but also I think we are a little bit, I don't want to say terrified, but it's just like, it's just disruption, right?
Yeah.
And what was interesting recently, I was talking on the Canadian Photography Conference, and they asked me if I could just talk a little bit about AI, like what's my opinion, and I could see everyone was just terrified. Like you could see these
Yeah.
people's eyes getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and like I've heard these comments like, oh, what, photography is over, it's done. But I'm kind of optimistic, like I think
Yeah.
it's a tool, can definitely help us with a lot of stuff, but it's not gonna take over. I know, even though there is some applications where you're just uploading some, I don't know, crappy shots, and then they try to spit something interesting for you, but you can see it's far away from being perfect, and it's not even close to what the photographers can provide to the client.
Yeah.
So how you look at this whole AI new kind of world coming in, what's your prediction? Are you scared, or you looking also a little bit optimistic, or you just kind of like, okay, I don't even know where this whole thing is heading at this point? What's your take on it? Because there is heated debate, like even on my group, whenever
Yeah.
someone starts AI, it's all of a sudden this like battle where people just try to like literally kill themselves because
I
everyone
know.
has opposite opinion, and then they don't even try to kind of find middle ground, like we don't know maybe some of those things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's interesting, like, because it was a very popular and hot topic during the strike here, because that was one of the
Mhm.
things the actors were, it was a whole subject of background actors and AI. I don't know how much you guys have read about it, but it was a very hot topic that was discussed in the studio a lot.
Mhm.
I understand people's fears. We all
Mhm.
fear what we don't know, right? We all
Mhm.
fear the unknown, and we see the movies about this stuff, and it gets our brains going. We're creative people, right? How can we
Yeah.
not? I think there are certain benefits to it. I think it's incredible technology. I'm certainly impressed that we as humans have even come up with this and are on the brink of this.
Mhm.
Of course, it's interesting. For me, photography wise, I don't think I'm scared of it. I
Mhm.
think we have to understand how to use it as a tool that can make certain portions of our job easier, so we can
Mhm.
focus on the creative. There's
Mhm.
little tasks, and there's little things in retouching and all of that, that might just make things a little
Easy.
easier. And I'm always for, making workflow easier. I think AI scares me more just what it does to us as a society, as humans, and our connection, and putting our faces in our phones more and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe I'll be proven totally wrong, but I don't think our jobs are threatened in the near future. I do think that connection that we've talked about that is so massively important is not something that they can computer generate. I just don't. Our creative choices of their wardrobe, their background, capturing that expression right at that moment, getting that laugh out of them. I don't know. I will be impressed if they can recreate that in a moment. But to be frank, like if casting directors here are going to accept an AI headshot of an actor, maybe that's the time I may not want to be in this industry anymore. I don't know. And I could like look back in 10 years and roll my eyes at myself or laugh at myself or completely contradict myself. But I'm along for the ride. I want to see where it goes. I'm not scared of it. I think we have to support each other. I do think, there's going to be kids that are fresh out of college that upload their selfie, AI headshot generator, and they're going to use that on their LinkedIn. And it may be okay for a minute. That's not necessarily our clientele, right? Those aren't the kids that are getting professional photos done. I think corporations, companies, actors, they're still going to want a human to tell them what to do. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to completely replace us. I like to stay positive about it. I don't have my head in the sand with it. My husband and I both like to read about it. We like to keep up. We have people here in the industry that work in post-production that we know, and we're constantly asking them what the advancements are with this stuff and what they're working on with it, and it's pretty incredible stuff. There's shows we've all watched that has a whole set generated.
Yes.
So it's a hot topic, and it scares people, and people get really conflicted and get really heated about it. And I understand. I sympathize. I sympathize with the people that are scared of it, and I sympathize with the people that are like, I'm just going to ignore it. It's a new world. It's a new territory. I
think also what we need is like talk about it. That's the first thing, because I think the more we talk, and one thing we
need to understand it.
Yes, and one thing which really hit me actually when you were talking about it is about that human connection that AI cannot really. I don't think it's going to get even close anytime soon to create that. This human, and I think also like we're wired that we need those connections, right? We need to talk to other people. We need to, kind of, I don't know, interact with them. We need to talk to them. We need to see and kind of absorb their, face expressions and body language. And AI, I don't think can kind of replace that anytime soon, because humans are very, very complex. But also, I want to add one little thing, which we talked a few seconds ago about the COVID. You remember when people were wearing masks? I remember I was just like going to, I don't know, stores. And I think we are really sensitive to human face expressions because we do this on a daily basis. And my brain was going nuts. Like I remember I went to Costco one day and everyone was wearing the mask and I'm looking at these people and you just don't really feel anything. It's just like zombies walking around. Yeah. And I think that was the moment also where I appreciate like what I do, because you're looking for that smile. You're looking for this glance or this different body languages which they kind of providing to you throughout a photo shoot. And then when this is taking out of equation, our mind is going nuts, right? Absolutely.
It starts from birth. I mean, the studies that prove babies looking at their mothers, and you see it when you make expressions and their reaction. We're wired to do that. We're wired to connect and look at each other's faces and nuances, and that's what we're supposed to do.
That's what we're supposed to do. And I think, AI cannot really replace that, I think. And it's going to be really hard to get to that level. I don't know. Maybe that's just an opinion, but I've noticed this at this point cannot be replaceable.
I agree.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about marketing and business. how everything what is happening around, with the strike, with the COVID, with the AI, how this whole thing impacting your business, if it's even impacting at all. And also, I would like to talk how you promote yourself. Like, I know your images speak for yourself, and I don't think you even need much advertising. But like, I want to talk about it because, for people who are out there, they are in this industry, they want to stand out, they want to make money, they want to make a living out of this. What would be your advice how you can, kind of get to the point where you have constant flow of clients coming in, like you running a business, you're enjoying the business, and you see that you're kind of growing and you can make a living, and just just literally have a successful business out of headshot photography?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of a hard thing to guide people on. Certainly
Mhm.
when you and I both started, it was a very different industry.
Mhm.
The marketing tools people have now didn't even exist when I was starting.
Mhm.
And I just remember just having to grab people and photograph them. And that was like my main focus, is like, make sure the work is good, make sure the work is good.
Mhm.
That's like all I focused on. And the experience, obviously.
Mhm.
I think it's so silly to say, but that's truly what I was focusing on, was creating the environment and the experience, and then making sure the image was the result that I wanted it to be.
That was
And
the
those
advertising.
two, yeah, and because once the socials came around, right, then it starts to become like this free advertising where people are posting
Mhm.
your shots and tagging them and this, and like you have no control over it. So it always kept coming back to the experience, because I'm sure you've felt this. I feel and I genuinely believe the environment you create and the experience people have, they've decided in their head before they've even seen their images if they're happy or not.
Mhm.
You
Yes,
know,
100%.
the hospitality you have to have, to get people to open up when you know it's going to give them the best shots. There's like a sense of relief and a relaxation, and they're like, I know I'm going to love these. They've seen the
Mhm.
work already that you or I have produced at that point, and then they come in, they're hoping to get it, and they're relieved that it's a wonderful experience. So they're just cruising at that point.
Mhm.
And as far as how to guide someone who's starting now, I mean, again, these social media outlets are free. They're you just post your work. I mean, it's the
Mhm.
quality of the people starting out now, to me, is leaps and bounds above where the quality of work was when
Mhm.
I
But
started.
we are, yeah.
There wasn't as many photographers. Equipment was expensive. We didn't have just portfolios online we could just like throw out and get in front of people. Like they can pay
Mhm.
for an ad and get their work out there in 2 seconds. It just depends on the person and who they're trying to target, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't do paid ads. I'm not like a marketing salesy person. That's just,
Mhm.
it's not my personality, and anything like that feels like false to me. It feels like it's not a representation of like me or what they're going to get in here. So I think I just still have the model of putting out the good work. It's the if you build it, they will come. Field of dreams,
Yeah.
romanticizing of it. But really, it has to always come back to the work being good. Because I have seen people can create a beautiful brand, and make ads and have like great social and have a pay for like a bajillion followers. But if the work isn't good,
Mhm.
none of that matters, and those people aren't coming back, right?
Yeah.
Or if the experience, if it was an uncomfortable experience, or you made them feel down about themselves in any way or anything like that, that's done. You've closed that door.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think people worry about that stuff, and maybe put it before the other stuff
Mhm.
that's actually more important.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you that you have to have like extremely strong foundation, such as strong images, and then the business will start kind of like evolving itself. Like, you don't need to
Mhm.
convince people to, use your services through some
If you have to
ads and
convince them,
some
then
push.
it's probably
It's
not that
not
great,
the right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me, like, so basically, clients who are coming to you. So this is kind of the question I want to ask you. Most of them are referrals, or people who already use your services, people who came from someone told them about you, versus like because you said you don't do any paid advertising. So do you have also like any connections with certain agencies which sending clients to you? How the process look like on your end?
Yes, all of that.
All of that.
It's
Okay.
yeah, there's no one source. I
Mhm.
think there's return clients. I think we have a good amount of agents and managers that know and like our work, that we're
Mhm.
on their kind of agency list. A lot of agents have lists of photographers that when they tell their actor, you need new headshots, here's some people
That's very
we
good.
know and trust and recommend, because they
Mhm.
know their actor's safe here, they know they're going to get a good result, they, whatever their reasons for putting us on the list are. I think
Mhm.
it's that. I think there's people that refer me that I've never met or heard of, and that's a massive compliment.
Mhm.
There's, oh, I saw my friend on your portfolio. Oh, I saw this girl from my acting class. And oh, I know her. So now I'm seeing how she's photographed, and it's a great representation of her.
Mhm.
It comes from all those places. I think the only time I've done like a promotion or something on Instagram is like for my workshops that I teach,
Mhm.
just to reach, a photography audience that's like not in Los Angeles or doesn't already follow me or something like that. But
Mhm.
for actual, business, no, I just put the work out. And then I think, yeah, the combination of
That's
all
yeah.
those things is where it comes from.
And and that's amazing, because that tells everybody, or like tells that, okay, you pushing this through amazing work and experience and all this stuff, rather than all this stuff with those big corporations that try to convince us that we should spend money on advertising, we
Right,
should
right.
advertise, because that's what I've been hearing lately all the time, how you can advertise to be successful, but nobody talks like how you can do good job and then you're going to get the work. It's just kind of like other
Yeah.
way around. So
Yeah.
let's kind
I
of
always,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I always kind of turn the mirror on myself. Like if things were slow or I wasn't getting or somebody wasn't happy with something, I do kind of reflect and be like, is there something I could do better? Am I
Mhm.
not, I'm not gonna just be like, oh well, people aren't coming, I must put out an ad. It's like, oh, okay, is my work as good as it can be? Am I doing the type of work that I'm proud of? Am I, it's constantly evolving. So I don't, I've never been like oh, I'm going to discount it and do gimmicky things or anything.
Mhm.
I always encourage people to stay away from that. I think you just have to make
Mhm.
sure you're doing everything you are proud of and can. And again, reflecting, making sure like you're being kind to people and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's really simple stuff. As far as my perspective.
absolutely. And this is great advice, because I think a lot of photographers out there, they're getting like literally mislead about
They're
the
full speed ahead,
photography,
right? Yeah.
exactly, but photography, but also advertising. They say like, oh,
Yeah.
you have to advertise more and you have to market yourself
Right.
better, and there's all this tricks which they try to sell you to kind of get the client. But again,
Yeah.
the main route of getting the clients is a good work and good images and something which really stands out.
And I'm sure there is, a formula for certain people in certain genres of photography out around the country, around the world, that maybe that does work for them. And maybe it is a formula in certain aspects of photography that is necessary and that does give people more success. I think I just I see, ads and things of like, you do this and you're going to get this many more clients and that. And I just think it all
Mhm.
feels very like car salesman gimmicky,
Yes.
I don't think any of us can promise to get another photographer more business. I think that's
Mhm.
misleading, or I'm going to get you
Yeah.
this much more money. Or I think it's just,
Yeah.
we've kind of gotten off the rails a little bit, if that's what we're
Yeah.
promising, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can teach you how to connect with your subject, lighting, all the things that we can control.
Yes, I always laugh because sometimes I'm getting those phone calls from those, marketing companies, and they
Oh,
try
how
to sell
funny.
you like their services. I always pick them up just to kind of well, talk to them and see, how they want to approach
What are you
this whole
selling
thing.
me?
What you're selling
Yeah.
me, yes. And they like,
Yeah.
oh, we
Yeah.
can guarantee you're gonna get like 20 clients every week. I'm like, have you seen my website? No, I have. So they try to sell my product, not even seeing it, which is just like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that they don't, they don't, they look from completely different perspective.
Sure.
So finally, I want to talk a little bit about the education part. You mentioned you providing some seminars for photographers. You want to focus on education. Let's dive into this, because I really want people to hear this, because they might learn something from you. And then if you're
Sure.
offering any type of seminars, courses, workshops, let's talk about it
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. I'm excited for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've held in-person workshops in the past, pre-COVID, and once things were calmed
Mhm.
down. I just think we found in here every time sometimes I'll photograph an actor or someone that's actually a photographer as well, and every time we're talking shop, it's so exciting and I nerd out and we all love talking about our craft, right?
Mhm.
Just fascinating to me in that medium and in workshops of
Mhm.
the stuff that nobody tells people, right? The stuff
Mhm.
you can go and learn and read a book about technique. You can watch a tutorial on how to set up a 5 light setup and do all these things, all that. But I think headshots are a specific niche thing. And I think it's such an untapped world for a lot of photographers. And there aren't a lot of places they can turn to learn it. I think
Mhm.
you get like a beautiful fashion or portrait photographer who's like, okay, I'm going to do a video on headshots. But there isn't a ton out there of like actual professional working headshot photographers that are like, let's connect. Let's talk about it. I want to talk to other
Mhm.
headshot photographers. I'm never anyone who looks at another headshot photographer as like my competition. It's like my colleague. It's
Mhm.
someone who does what I do. We share a common
Mhm.
interest. So why not have all of us connect and talk about it and teach it and share what we know, share our experience and our knowledge. Because a lot of the people starting out or learning, or even people that are successful in another genre that maybe want to work headshots into their portfolio for additional income, um,
Mhm.
why not kind of share some of the secrets, the tools, the stories, the things we've learned along the way? Because that's the stuff that really you can't learn in like a lighting 101 course,
Yes.
so
Well,
kind
I
of
think those ones,
diving into
they like,
covering it all.
yes, absolutely. And I think the education is, well, extremely important, not only for professional photographers, but I also think is for people who doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
So I had this little story. I remember a while ago, I did this workshop in Houston, and I have this one gentleman who, he came from very, very high corporate position. He was making ton of money, but at some point the doctor told him, "Look, you know what? You If you're going to continue like this, you're going to get a heart attack or you're going to get stroke, because
Oh,
the stress level you're going through is kind of like to the roof. So you need to kind of step back, or I don't know, take time off." And he said to me that, he's like, so he just quit the job. He says, I tried to find some hobby, and photography was one of them, which kind of like inspired him for years.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he says to me that, he had a really hard time to connect with people, because he's like, in corporate world, like, is it cutthroat,
Hmm.
right? Like, you're just coming
Yeah.
into those meetings, like everyone hates you or you hate
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody, and then you just like, everyone is just like, look suspicious, and you never trust anybody. And he says, like, for him it's like kind of therapeutic, um
Hmm.
like a therapeutic thing that it helps him to kind of gain trust to people again. And like, that's
Oh,
hit me so
wow.
hard, because I'm just like, wow,
Yeah.
you know what, I didn't even know that headshot photography potentially could be some kind of also something which helps people to connect with others, to learn how to, I don't know, interact, how to create this bond. And Yeah, and I want to kind of talk about it, because like, you basically also teach not just the lighting stuff, but how to connect with
Yeah.
people, how to
Yeah.
interact with them, how to bring their personality, bring some smiles and all this stuff. Yeah, so that was extremely interesting experience for me, and especially right now with this whole AI situation, I think maybe headshot photography becoming also some kind of, as I said, something where people are going to have as a hobby to learn how to be with others, how to connect with others, and that can really kind of create this bond.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's almost this hidden superpower, right? Like you maybe didn't realize how therapeutic it was. Neither did the client, right? I mean,
Yes.
everybody involved in it. It is a gift. It's this incredible thing. And yeah, I think it's at least how we're approaching it is like this is a different way of learning and a different style of education. And I certainly will always consider myself a photographer. I'm not, an
Hmm.
educator. I'm a photographer who's sharing knowledge. Yeah, it's a cool thing. And we've had actors even that have done that. They've left their, I had a guy who had his own practice. He was a lawyer. He drove across country, closed up shop, packed up his car, and moved
Wow.
here to become an actor. Just because he's like, life is short, and he had a parent pass away and was like, I'm going to do this. And it's just
Hmm.
like, those are the stories that are so inspiring, right? That you're
Wow.
kind of like, what we've been through as a society now, COVID and we, strike, and whatever else in our personal lives we've all been through, we do have to kind of do that and say, life is short, and I am going to do this thing, this photography thing, this acting thing, whatever this art is that fulfills that need and that therapeutic need. I mean,
Hmm.
talking to people is therapeutic, sharing experience, right? I've had clients in here that are also mothers. I'm a working mom. I run my own studio. I have two small children. Finding that balance is certainly not easy. And having
Hmm.
another person that has that experience and being like, oh my God, you too? Oh God, yeah, because then you don't feel alone in it. You don't feel like you're the only one
Yes.
going through it.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Absolutely.
know you're a dad as well. Like we're artists, we're business owners, we're parents. It's like we're wearing so many hats. Right. And
Yes.
especially when you're
Absolutely.
talking about education, and I find a lot of, people that I'm teaching are also the parent who was the stay-at-home parent. Now they're wanting to do something for themselves, and photography is a popular choice among that. And maybe they're, good at taking photographs of their kids or their kids' friends, and they're kind of like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. And like, yes, empower people, more of that, please.
Absolutely.
College is expensive now, so it's their family's second income.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing. And this kind of new batch of photographers, they're also like, well, I've learned this thing and this is all I know about headshot photography. I want to see something different. I want to know something different. This isn't working for me. So you
Hmm.
get people that have been doing it that want a different approach. You get people that are, sort of in that zone, and people that are just starting out.
Hmm.
But we're always learning. I'm learning. I'm learning when I share it with people.
Yes.
I'm learning when I talk to you. We never stop that process, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think the more, and what is also fascinating for me, for like on so many occasions that people say like, oh, just the headshots, like, oh, it's just like it's easy to put someone at the front of the camera. Take it. I'm like, you have no idea how deep this whole thing go, because we've been
Yeah.
in this industry for so many years, and there's always something new every time we shoot. We talk to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's also in this industry, and we're learning from them. And it's, as you said, it's like a never ending story, a never ending learning process for us. And I think
That's
if
the
we could
fun
even do
part.
it for 40 years, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, it still
Right.
would be something to learn. So I think
Yeah.
that's one of the, I personally think it's one of the best genres of photography, like, because it's
I
making a
agree.
human, absolutely making a human. I also learned that it's interesting how also, like, how much empathy we have to kind of like provide, and how it's the kind of is in us to be a headshot photographer. Because I like, every time when I talk to any other headshot photographer, the empathy is just like, spitting out, that
Yeah.
you can really
Yeah.
sense that they have completely different approach to other people, and because this
Yeah.
is what we do.
Yeah.
So
And we
that's
absorb it, right?
yes.
We take that, whatever they're spewing at us, at least I'm absorbing it.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a sensitive person, and I tend to like carry that with me. And then you have to come home and decompress. right? And then your kid needs you for a school project or your, you know, whatever you need to do when you leave the studio. So it's constantly like absorbing it and letting it go as well.
Yes.
But it's interesting, you know, you said something that made me think of, you know, we're constantly like evolving and learning more and all of that, because there's no like one way to take a headshot. There's no right way. There's no like, at least when I'm coaching and teaching people, there's no like, oh, do it, this is my way and you have to do it this way. That doesn't exist. That's not, if that was the case, all of our shots would look like one another, right?
Yes.
We would all just look the same. 100%. How boring is that? I think it's really about, well, this is what I shoot. I'm going to kind of show you these tools and kind of give you some insight to things and empower you then to be able to make creative choices and adapt depending on who your client is and what their needs are and all of that. And that's where you start seeing some really incredible art being created. And that's when I see people that did a workshop with me, you know, I'll look at their work as they're updating it and like, okay, wow, they're really getting it. And they're really, they've got their own thing going on and it's really cool. And people will go to them for that thing as opposed to just a sea of, you know, a bunch of shots that look the same. And you're like, well, if they all look the same, I'm just going to pick the cheapest one, I guess, you know. That's kind of like not the world we want headshots to be in, right? So it's so cool, and they're learning from me and I'm learning from them, and it's amazing. It's fun.
So whoever's watching this, I'm going to link all those courses from you to this video so people can check it out and join it and learn from you, because, you know, like, you've got a lot of to share, and I think your work is stunning. So I think there's beyond all this lighting and technicalities, whatever, right? Like,
and we'll go over that too.
Yes, well, we have to, but that's something, it's just a foundation, right? And I think the rest of it. Stephanie, that was amazing interview. Thank you for joining it.
Thank you.
We should do this more often. That's what I'm trying to
Anytime.
say.
I always enjoy speaking with you.
We'll definitely make this more frequent. You know, I don't want to wait another 7 years to talk to you again. Also, the industry is evolving quite fast right now, so we should kind of.
It sure is.
We should definitely get this conversation more, so people can listen to this, they can learn from this, and then definitely, you know, you pushing your business also, and then everything what you do to the level where you're sharing some of those stuff. So that's extremely important. So I will link all the information to this video so people can check it out. If you never seen Stephanie's work, you're missing a lot. So we will definitely push everything there so people can, you know, take a look at your amazing work. And and we'll definitely do this soon again.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you so much, and then we'll be in touch.